In this video, we're going to go over the cost template on the Google Sheets. From this source, Prices with Insurance, I've found that the multipliers for insurance versus different types of insurances are these numbers provided. From there, we're going to choose 3 things to analyze. In this example, I did doctor visits for 3 different years, the price of ibuprofen for 3 different years, and the price of blood pressure monitors. Now, if you refer to the rubric, the data needs to be collected for 3 things. It could be visits, treatments, or equipment. Or it could be all 3, or it could just be all just a treatment, or it could be just different visits, maybe surgery versus doctor visit versus hospital visit. Whatever your choice is, it needs to be collected for the price of 3 different years. So the current year, maybe the year before, and then just some other year you can find. Once you collect the prices, you could use those multipliers to get the other numbers, or if it gives you those other numbers, use that to get the price with no insurance. For the price of Advil, I found those using the web archives site. And then for the blood pressure monitors, these higher prices were found on a website that had top 5 top blood pressure monitors of the year. And then this specific blood pressure monitor was found on another site. It's called Price Before. The numbers were in rupees, so I had to translate them to dollars, though. Once you get your data, you're going to put them together. So you want to find the average price of each of these and the median price. To get the average cost, you'll type in equals and then capital average, and then you'll take it from 60, which is C3, all the way to C6. And then you'll press enter, it'll give you the answer right there. For median, it's the same thing, except for instead of average, you're going to type in median. And you'll do that for each of your collected data sets. So notice on the template for you, it does not have any data in there yet. So from here, we'll say that the years, we have 2003, 2015, and 2022. It's important to have the year and the cost. The year will represent X, and the cost will represent Y. Once you have your 3 values, you'll find the linear regression of this. To do that, in here you're going to type equal linest, and then you'll have your Y values first, which is B9 or B10 to B12, and then your X values, A10 to A12. You press enter, and then it will give you the slope of the linear regression, and then next to it, it will give you the y-intercept of the linear regression. And then you get the correlation coefficient. So it has 0.98 something. That means that it's a pretty strong positive correlation here. That just means that the data points fit very well with the line of best fit. You'll continue to do that on the next one. So we typed in our years and our median cost of ibuprofen, and then we found our linear regression and our correlation coefficient. To find the correlation coefficient, in the box you'll type equals correl, and then you type in the y range and the x range. And then you do the same thing for the third thing you're analyzing. Once you're done with that, you'll go over to where the graphs are. There's going to be one graph for each of the three things you're analyzing. So we have this first one, doctor visit costs. Double click it, and they'll give you some editor options. So for the setup, you want it to be a scatter chart. It's basically a scatter plot. And then you want to have an x-axis. We're going to say that that's year. To change your bounds, you just click on select a data range, and it has it right here. It's A9, A12. Notice that the title is also included in that data range, so you'll have a title on there. And then you want to have series. That's going to be the Y values. So we have median cost of doctor visit, and we have it twice. We did it once in the blue for a linear regression, and then in the red, it's the exponential regression. And we'll check this box saying use row 10 as headers. Okay, so from there, once you've set that up, you can go to Customize, and you could change the titles by going to Chart and Axis Titles. To change the chart title, you go to Chart Title, and then you type in whatever you are analyzing on yours. And then you could also name the horizontal and vertical axis titles. So a horizontal, we call that year, and vertical, we're going to call it cost. That shouldn't really change for any of your final graphs. So after that, we're going to go to series. And we're going to click, instead of apply to all series, we're going to go to one at a time. The blue one, we're going to click on trend line, and it's going to be linear. If you want, you could change the color. Be sure to include what each color represents on your slide. So, for example, this one, blue is linear and red is exponential. To get the equation to show up here, this one right here, you go label, use equation, and then to get the determination coefficient to show up, you just click this box. Whichever one's closest to 1 is the stronger model. It fits the data points better. We are ready to do the other one. You'll click that, adjust it how you want, make sure trend line is clicked on. The type is exponential. You could change the color here. And then the label, again, use equation, show R squared. The reason why these numbers right here for the exponential is so small is because the years that we're using is in the 2000s. Now, if you wanted to use Desmos or something and create an exponential equation that looks a little bit nicer, instead of putting in 2003, 2015, 2022, you could say years from the year 2000. So you could be like 3, 15, and 22. So like if you looked at that, for example, notice that these numbers would be nicer looking for the exponential. But again, that's not required for you to do. You'll repeat that same process for all the graphs that you have on your page. Once you finish that, go ahead and answer the final questions here. So our strongest correlation coefficient was the doctor visits with R equals 0.9845 and so on. So that's the linear coefficient for doctor visits. That's the coefficient for the ibuprofen prices, which that Walmart deal for $4 in 2010, it really skewed the data here. So did this one. And this first number actually came from Walgreens in 2004. Surprisingly, it was more expensive than it is in present day. So that one's a small correlation coefficient. It's very weak. And then the last one is pretty strong, but it's not as strong as the first one. Okay, and then also predict the cost in 2050 for each of these things. So the first row right here is based on the linear model. So you'll plug these in to calculate this. So basically what you're plugging in is y equals 3.11 and so on times 2050 plus this number, the negative 6,204 point something. And when you plug that in, you get about 175.86. You'll repeat that same process for the other two things. Now, in this linear model, we actually get that it's going to be 0 or below. If you ever get something like that on these models, you could just say it's inconclusive and more data would be needed for this. Now, for the exponential model, you can just approximate it, or you could actually use the regression models. So on the first one, I plugged in the formulas. I believe I used Desmos for this. Or actually, another way you can actually find the regression is if you put equals and then logist. And then you put the known y values and then the known x values. And you would just raise that to the 2050th power. And then for this one, for 5, looked at the graph and I approximated. This red line looks like it's halfway between the 0 and the 10, so we can say that's 5. And then for the other one, as you can see in this graph, the red exponential line is not showing at all, so we could just say that that's inconclusive. It's going to be some really tiny number or large number or something. So you'll go ahead and do the same thing on your sheet. So make a copy of this on your Google Drive. Fill in these slots. Notice that I have for the year and all that stuff, there's 0 right now. You want to change that to whatever values you find. I put those in right there so I could actually have the graphs showing up on the template. And let's go over the rubric, the criteria for this. So again, data collection, you want to collect the cost of 3, either visits, treatments, equipment, or a combination of them for 3 different years. For the predictions, you want to make the predictions for the cost of the 3 different things you analyze for the year 2050, using both a linear model, which you'll plug in, and the exponential model, which you can approximate from the graphs that you make. For the calculations, you want to do the linear regressions, the correlation coefficients, averages, medians, and graphs. They're all displayed on your Google Sheets page. And then for your explanations on your presentation, you have the graphs included on your slide. The link to the Google Sheet is included. The predictions for the cost of the year 2050 are also identified, and the strongest correlation coefficient is identified, and you have your sources cited. So to keep track of the websites, you could do that in the Sources tab, and then once you're done with that, you'll cite them at the end in the proper format with the rest of your citations for your project. I can't wait to learn more about your case studies.